Hey there, horror fans! Today I have a chilling tale for you. This is the story of Sarah and the shadow in the hallway. Sarah had just moved into her new apartment, an old, charming building at a quiet corner of the city. It had creaky wooden floors, vintage wallpaper, and a faint scent of age in the air. It was everything she had imagined for a fresh start. But soon that feeling would change. Her first night was uneventful. She unpacked, set up her bed, and curled up with a book. The only thing that felt off was the quiet. Not the peaceful kind, but the oppressive kind, like the air in the apartment was holding its breath, waiting. She shrugged it off, thinking it was just the loneliness of moving into a new place. Over the next few days, Sarah began to notice strange things. The faucets would be running when she came home, the fridge door left slightly ajar, or a faint scratching noise coming from the walls in the middle of the night. She told herself it was the old building settling, maybe even the neighbors, nothing out of the ordinary. But then came the shadow. It was the first time she saw it late one evening while she was getting ready for bed. At first she thought it was her reflection in the hallway mirror, but then she realized something. The figure wasn't hers. It was tall and slender, with sharp, angular limbs that seemed to stretch unnaturally. It stood in the hallway, its head tilted as though observing her. The moment their eyes locked, it vanished, like it was never there. Sarah froze, heart pounding. She couldn't explain it. She told herself she was just tired or imagining things. The mind can play tricks, she reasoned, especially in a new place. But the shadow came again, on the third night. This time Sarah was sitting on her couch when she saw it from the corner of her eye. It moved, gliding down the hallway at an inhuman pace, its silhouette barely visible in the dim light. Her stomach dropped. There was no doubt now. It wasn't just in her head. Terrified, Sarah reached for her phone and called the building superintendent, Mr. Green. "Mr. Green, I need to ask you something about this apartment," she stammered, her voice shaky. "Oh, you must mean the hallway," he replied, his voice unusually calm. "It's a strange thing, isn't it? Some folks claim to see something in the hall, something that doesn't belong there. Don't worry about it too much. It's just an old house, probably the pipes. They make strange noises at night." But Sarah wasn't convinced. She couldn't ignore the growing sense that something was wrong, something far worse than a creaky floorboard. The next night, unable to sleep, Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands. She gathered her courage and stood at the edge of the hallway, staring into the darkness. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The air felt thick, almost electric, as if something was waiting just out of sight. And then she saw it again. The shadow moved closer this time, as though it knew she was watching. Its form was more defined, tall, lanky, and impossibly thin. Its face was a hollow void, dark and empty, with no eyes, no mouth. It didn't make a sound as it approached, but Sarah could feel its presence, an overwhelming sense of dread, like it was suffocating the very air around her. In that moment, Sarah understood. It wasn't just a shadow, it was something alive, something that had always been there, waiting for her to see it. Suddenly, a cold, breathless whisper slid into her mind. "Leave." Without thinking, Sarah sprinted out of her apartment, not daring to look back. She spent the night at a friend's house, but she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was following her. The next morning, Sarah returned, her heart in her throat. She found her apartment exactly as she had left it. Nothing was amiss. The shadow was gone, yet somehow she knew it wasn't. It was still there, just hidden in the walls, watching. And every time Sarah turned a corner, she could feel its cold gaze on her back. The question gnawed at her. How long had it been there? She began to ask around, speaking with her neighbors, but they either dismissed her or gave her cryptic warnings. One elderly woman who had lived in the building for decades simply said, "Sometimes things don't go away, not unless you force them." Sarah was left with one haunting choice: to leave or to face whatever lived in the dark corners of the hallway. She didn't know if she was ready, but she knew one thing for certain: the shadow would not let her go. And as the days wore on, she began to wonder, maybe it wasn't just her that the shadow wanted. Maybe it was waiting for someone else. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more chilling tales.